Welcome to Bold Voices, Good Yarns. I'm your host, Ian Hensel. Behind every book lies an author's life story. So join me on an interactive journey as we step between the pages to explore how an author's life and their experiences have shaped the stories that we cherish and love. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe or a cocktail, and join me as we step between the pages. Welcome. I'm Ian Hensel, and I'm the host of Bold Voices, Good Yarns. And our guest here today is Elias Miguel Muñoz, who is the author of several books. His newest book is Encore, Encore from Rattling Good Yarns Press. He's also the author of The Greatest Performance, Brand New Memory, and Diary of Fire. Welcome, Miguel. And you prefer going by Miguel,
Yes.
right?
My friends and family call me Miguel, and you're one of my best friends. So thank you. Yes. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. I
Well,
appreciate
thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So, Miguel, what aspects, so we always dive between the pages of books, and behind every book, behind every author is a life. And so we kind of explore their life. So what aspects of your growing up, what aspects do you think influenced you in your upbringing, influenced your worldview?
Well, you see, I was born in the 1950s in Cuba, right at the beginning of the Cuban Revolution of 1959, which was a monumental event, which impacted our lives, impacted the world. So for us, it was like before the revolution and after the revolution. And there were many factors that affected my youth and adolescence. For one, the Cuban Revolution, although it did a lot of good at the beginning, especially for the peasants, it became a totalitarian homophobic state. I was an artistic, sensitive, chubby little kid, and I didn't feel that there was any room, any place in that society for someone like me. One of the problems was the fact that Castro, you know, the head of the revolution, wanted to create a new man, a new revolutionary man, which was basically a macho, heterosexual, patriarchal figure. So everything that happened after the revolution, up to the point where we came to the States and went into exile, affected my life a great deal. There's no way to put it, no other way to put it. I mean, everything that happened impacted who I would become as an immigrant, as a writer, as an intellectual.
How old were you when you came to this country?
I was 14. I came here in 1968.
And did you speak English?
No. I didn't speak a word of English. No, that was part of the struggle because, once we left Cuba, then we had to face a different kind of reality and a different kind of challenge in the States. And one of them was the language barrier. So I went to school, I went to high school, acquired English, got several degrees, but, ultimately I am not a native speaker, but I feel that I am fortunate because of my reading that I acquired enough knowledge of English and other languages to be able to write. I love writing in English. To be honest, I don't feel comfortable in writing Spanish as much anymore because I don't have access to the vocabulary.
Were there any specific moments in your childhood, or you came here when you were 14, you were already adolescent, that were pivotal in inspiring you to write?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you see, we didn't have a reading culture at home. My parents were teenagers, fresh out of high school. They didn't read. So and there were so many factors that created a very difficult environment, very challenging. There was a lot of bullying going on and a lot of abuse. So my writing became an escape. It became a way out, sort of like a place of happiness and joy and peace, even though I was writing, I hate to say it, but I was writing crap. I mean, what did I know? I didn't have any reading background. But something that made a big difference that I don't think I've ever told you is the fact that since I didn't have any access to reading, they used to show old Hollywood movies on TV classics, Betty Davis, Rita Hayworth, Joan Crawford, Clark Gable. And many of those films that were shown on TV didn't have subtitles. Some of them did, but they were too fast for me to read. So I ended up creating my own story and starting to write based on the images and whatever story was going on visually. So based on the visual cinematic universe, I started to develop my writing skills in my storytelling.
So do you think movies were a bigger influence than books?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think I would have become a writer if I don't think I would have become a writer if I hadn't had to face the challenges of the Cuban Revolution and exile, and if I hadn't been able to watch all those movies when I was growing up. Absolutely.
How did so you're this, and this was in the US you were watching these
No, no, no.
movies, or
This
was
was in
that
Cuba. This
in
was in
Cuba?
Cuba. In Cuba, when I was, I don't know, 9, 10.
How did that, so I want to ask you, how did that, when you finally came to so you formed the view of the US through Hollywood?
Absolutely, yeah. So when I came here, yeah, that was the image I had of the United States. And so when I came here, I came to California, it was shocking because it was absolutely nothing like what I saw. Oh, I got very far from Betty Davis. So and then of course I didn't watch any of those movies anymore. I was watching whatever was on TV at the time, and that was again watching television. Although it has all the downfalls that we know about, it was a great source of input, and language and also culture, of course. Yeah.
So is that why, so we have your newest book is Encore Encore. You have a book, The Greatest Performance. Encore Encore is, you could say it's a novel in 3 parts. There's actually 3 acts
Yes.
to Encore
Yes.
Encore.
Yes.
Do you think that's your melding of that
Yes.
that Hollywood, that cinematic experience and your
Absolutely.
writing?
Absolutely. That's why you see so much experimentation and theatricality and also cinematic techniques in my writing, because that was the main influence that I had growing up. Of course, once I came to the States, I went to school, especially graduate school. I started reading and I read a lot, and I discovered all the great Latin American writers, García Márquez, Julio Cortázar, Manuel Puig. In fact, Puig was the most influential writer for me. He was the author of Kiss of the Spider Woman, and he was also very interested in fact, he was obsessed with Hollywood, um, 20 years before me. And so I ended up reading him and loving him to death. I mean, in fact, I wrote my doctoral dissertation on the man because not only did he do the movies, he also he dealt with patriarchy, the themes that were, I guess, accosting me, such as, power relations in heterosexual relationships, homophobia, sexuality, gender, and of course, mass media. And so when I discovered him, it was like discovering my soulmate. And he was my guiding force throughout my career. But it all goes back to those movies and the storytelling that came from that, and then of course reading all those great writers. That was another pivotal moment in my career. If I hadn't read those writers like Garcia Marquez and Puig, I don't think I have no idea. I don't think so, because I was I was artistic. I did drawing and painting. I used to write songs, but seriously as a writer, it didn't happen until I went to grad school.
It's interesting because I have a friend who's Chilean who lives in this country now, and he was there during, the dictatorship, during very hard times. They didn't have any television, but he talks about Hollywood movies, and I'm just starting to think about
Yeah.
what is it between young queer Latinos
I guess
and
we have
Hollywood.
I guess as Puig would say, we have a diva inside. We love the divas, the Hollywood divas.
Do you think it's the emotion in that bigger than life?
Absolutely. It's the melodrama, the flair, the high pitch, all of that, but also the passion. There was a lot of passion in those movies. Too much, of course. But of course, yeah. So that was definitely part of the allure of those movies and how they shaped us.
So on that note, are there aspects of your life that readers might be surprised to learn influenced you? Are there aspects of your life that would surprise readers?
Well, I think several, but I was just thinking about that this morning. That the one surprise would probably be the fact that I am fascinated by quantum physics, by astrophysics and quantum mechanics. I don't do any of the complicated math, but I love the concepts and the research. And I have never incorporated any of that knowledge and interest in my writing, but I think I'm going to. In fact, I already am in my current work. So I don't think people will realize that I'm a closet astrophysicist.
Well, funny you should say that because I too am fascinated by quantum theory.
I didn't know
And
that.
it's yes, I am, and it makes my brain hurt
Oh,
because they start talking about things that are so fantastic.
fantastic. Well, it's just the one idea that a particle can be two places at the same time. To me, it's just beyond belief.
And I think Einstein called that the spooky connection. But they recently, if I'm correct, proved that it exists. And they somehow proved it with two stars in two different places
Yeah,
doing the same thing at the same time, the connection. So maybe somewhere out there's another Miguel Muñoz
another Ian.
and another, who knows what they're talking about.
Well, not only one, but I suspect there are many. You've heard of the multiverse, of course.
Well, they're probably doing a podcast about football.
I don't know about that.
Well, I want to do a pivot. We're talking about the fantastical places and worlds, and we're talking about the world of Hollywood and that make-believe world. When authors, and I ask every guest this question, when authors create a story, a book, they create a world. And, so you may absolutely love, Poe, but would you want to live in the Pit and the Pendulum or the Telltale Heart? Are those
No,
worlds you'd want to live in? So if you could live in a book or a story, what would you choose to live in and why?
I would love to be able to visit. I'm not sure that I want to live there, but I would love to visit the town of Macondo in the novel 100 Years of Solitude by García Márquez. I think it would be fascinating because of the magic. There's a lot of magic in that town. Nature is thriving, it's rich, and there's a lot of fantasy. And one thing that I love about that book and the story that Garcia Marquez tells is that the line between life and death is very blurry. Really, they're both part of the same existence. So characters come in and out. They talk to the dead as if they were really there, and they are there. So in this magical universe of Macondo, you never really lose your loved one, always there. So that's very attractive to me. I would also love to meet the main character, the matriarch, Ursula. I think she's such a cool woman. I would love to be able to hang out with
What do
her.
you find cool about her?
She's empowered for a woman who grew up in a very small Colombian town, when feminism wasn't even a word. It didn't exist. And she was empowered. She was the one who basically took care of business and ran the house and the business and the children, had many kids. And even though she was a housewife, she was also um, a, um, an intellectual, a creative human being. And so I really like her. I
I
admire her.
find it interesting, so you're talking about the book and the magical, the spiritual quality,
Spiritual. That's the
the
word.
blurring between the living and the dead.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a connection there with your fascination with quantum physics.
Oh, absolutely. I hadn't made the connection. Okay. Yeah. I would love to believe. I love to. I passionately believe in the spiritual realm, and the fact that there's more to life than this body that we have. And energy is real. I mean, it is a fact that there's energy out there in the universe, and that we're all probably there somehow. And so
Well,
quantum,
when one reads a book or a story, there is in a way energy there. And if you think
yeah,
about it,
absolutely.
if you think about a book from the past, it's the past talking to us.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Now, if you could talk to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
That is such a good question. I wish I could do that. Time travel is another one of my fascinations, my passions. And I have actually thought about that more than once. I would love to talk to myself. And you know what I would say to myself, to that kid in Cuba? Don't be afraid. You don't have to live in fear. Things are going to work out okay. Keep writing your corny, tacky little love stories or fantasy stories, fantasies. Don't give it up. But more than anything, don't be afraid. Don't live in fear, because that was the biggest obstacle throughout my life. Fear of repression, fear of the government, fear of patriarchal systems, fear of abuse, fear of pain. In Cuba, we were sent to work in the fields, and it has a different story.
So, wow. So we have mysticism, spirituality, don't be fearful, and Hollywood glamour. Well, remarkable. Well, I want to thank you, Miguel, for being with us today. So once again, we've been in conversation here on Bold Voices, Good Yarns with author Elias Miguel Muñoz. His latest novel is Encore, Encore. So there we have it. It's kind of a novel in 3 acts.
It's actually a play, right?
There'll be links in the show notes where you can buy the book. And also, don't forget to subscribe and follow us. And once again, thank you, Miguel, for being with us today. It's been delightful.
You're very welcome. I always love talking with you, Ian, and I hope we can do this again soon. So take good care. Thank you so much.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Bold Voices, Good Yarns, brought to you by Rattling Good Yarns Press. Subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube, and follow us on social media. Search for Rattling Good Yarns Press. Also, visit our website at rattlinggoodyarns.com, where you can find great reads and interesting articles about the world of books. See you soon!